This is Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and Japan. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn and via satellite Eurosat 16A on 11,512 MHz vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. Symbol rate 29,950 megasymbols per second, standard DVB-S2, modulation 8 BSK, audio PID 510. We wish you good reception conditions.
Hello, I'm Anna Maria Popescu with the news. First, the headlines. Authorities warn once again that vaccination and compliance with the COVID-19 containment measures are the only ways for Romania to overcome the pandemic. In Bucharest and other cities in Romania, protests against the anti-COVID restrictions took place on Tuesday for the third consecutive night, and the Romanian Foreign Minister Bogdan Aurescu had a phone talk with the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken to discuss Romania's contribution to NATO, energy security, and the rule of law. Romania's economy is expected to grow by 4.3% this year after last year's 3.9% contraction, says the latest World Bank report made public on Wednesday. According to the same report, the economic growth would be supported by the improved economic activity in the second half of 2021. This economic growth rate will also depend on the success of the vaccine rollout, the political response to the medical crisis, as well as by the EU performances. World Bank also expects a 4.1% economic growth rate for the next year, with an inflation rate around 3% in 2021 and 3.2% in 2022. Tasmania's 6,156 new COVID-19 infections were reported on Wednesday in Romania out of 41,000 tests. 14 counties are in the red zone, meaning they have infection rates above 3 per thousand. Ilfov County near Bucharest has the highest infection rate, over 9 per thousand, and the capital city is over 7 per thousand. The authorities also announced 129 deaths and 1,412 patients in intensive care, a new record since the start of the pandemic. Authorities have again pointed out that only through vaccination and observance of the prevention rules will Romania be able to get rid of the pandemic. According to physician Andreea Moldovan, Secretary of State with the Health Ministry, the third wave is different than the others, with a higher number of cases and increased gravity. In her opinion, if containment measures are relaxed or ignored by people, they would stay in force for longer. Meanwhile, the vaccine rollout is in full swing in Romania, with over 2 million people vaccinated, half of them including the booster dose. For the third night in a row, Bucharest and several big cities across Romania on Tuesday saw large-scale protests against the anti-COVID measures imposed by the authorities. Chanting anti-government slogans, the protesters called on the authorities to cancel the mandatory wear of face masks and reopen gyms and fitness facilities. Romania's President Klaus Iohannis on Tuesday said that he understands the discontent of the Romanians after a year of restrictions, adding these measures are the only means that can help Romania to contain the pandemic. The Romanian president also said that protests are normal in a functioning democracy, but violence, extremism and xenophobia are intolerable and completely unacceptable. The president's statement came after clashes in some of Romania's cities. Opposition leader Marcel Ciolacu said that people took to the streets out of poverty and despair caused by the ongoing medical crisis. The Romanian Foreign Minister Bogdan Aurescu and the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken Tuesday had talks over telephone about Romania's contribution to NATO, energy security and the rule of law. Washington praised Romania for being a staunch NATO ally and for its commitment to strengthening security at the Black Sea, while Bucharest gave assurances these approaches would continue. The two officials also tackled the developing bilateral cooperation in the field of nuclear energy and the efforts to diversify gas supplies in Europe. Minister Aurescu mentioned the priority of Romania's government related to the country's OECD accession and voiced his belief that the U.S. would support Romania's intention. He also highlighted the interest in the rapid progress of the visa waiver program and an increased U.S. military presence in Romania. The Chamber of Deputies Wednesday adopted a joint statement condemning anti-Semitic messages in Romania and attempts at rehabilitating war criminals. Response came after actress Maya Morgenstern, head of the State Jewish Theatre in Bucharest, received death threats. Anti-Semitism is a threat to democracy, and acknowledging the past is a key element of responsibility, both in the present and in the future, reads the statement signed by the deputies at the initiative of the representative of Jewish communities in Parliament, Silviu Wexler. The Spanish Air Forces unit deployed to Romania in early February at the Mihail Cogălniteanu Air Base has completed its mission. The 130-strong team of pilots and technicians with 6 Eurofighter Typhoon conducted air police missions and a NATO command, jointly with Romanian Air Forces troops using F-16 and MiG-21 Lancers. The Spanish unit will be replaced by a British Royal Air Force unit currently being deployed to Romania. And that was the news.
The foreign ministers of Romania and the United States reviewed bilateral relations in strategic areas. I'm Cristina Mateescu with this report by Eugen Coroianu. Romania will remain a strong and reliable strategic partner for the United States, as well as a committed NATO ally. Foreign Minister Bogdan Aurescu assured his U.S. counterpart Anthony Blinken in a phone conversation on Tuesday. From Washington, the new American Secretary of State praised Romania for being a robust member of NATO and for its commitment to the consolidation of Black Sea security. According to a statement from the Romanian Foreign Ministry, the talks underlined the importance of coordinating with partners who share the same values and strategic priorities, and the need to promote democracy and the rule of law, including by strengthening strategic resilience at international level. The discussions also focused on the bilateral cooperation currently under development in the civilian nuclear field and the efforts to diversify the gas supply sources for Europe, with the importance of the strategic gas reserves on the Black Sea continental shelf being mentioned in this connection. Secretary of State Blinken conveyed his country's appreciation for Romania's progress with respect to the rule of law, the reform of the judiciary, and the fight against corruption, which are also relevant in a regional context. He emphasized that these measures have a decisive contribution to creating an attractive business and investment environment for American economic partners, highlighting that developing the economic relationship with Romania remains a priority. On the other hand, the 2020 report of the State Department, cited by Radio Romania's correspondent in Washington, warns, among others, that Romania is still struggling with widespread official corruption. The report notes that the judiciary took steps to convict and punish officials who committed abuses, but that the authorities did not have effective mechanisms to enforce the punishments and delayed proceedings involving alleged police abuses and corruption, which resulted in many cases of acquittals. Going back to the telephone conversation between the Romanian Foreign Ministry and the U.S. Secretary of State, the former made the case for the U.S.'s financial involvement in various projects in Romania, emphasizing that apart from an increased military presence in this country and the region, it is also necessary for the U.S. to consolidate its economic and investment presence. Aurescu also called for speeding up the visa waiver scheme for Romanians and expand cooperation in combating phenomena with negative impacts, such as human trafficking. The two officials also spoke about the 10th anniversary of the coming into force of the agreement on the installation of the U.S. missile defense system in Romania and the 5th anniversary of the moment when the missile defense facility in Deveselu in southern Romania became operational.